You're tuned in to NightVision Radio, exposing the truth, one secret at a time. Prepare yourself as we explore the shadow worlds of suppressed history, secret knowledge, forbidden religion, and shine a light on the conspiracies to keep it all from us. Welcome to NightVision Radio. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. We've got a good one planned for you tonight. Thanks so much for being here, and hope everybody's keeping warm on the East Coast of the United States. I know you got a bit of a storm, although I do think some of our friends got missed. The storm went a little bit further east than was previously predicted, and some people didn't get quite as snowed in as others did. I want to send a hello out to my nephew, Grant Benham, in Boston, because he definitely got it, and I want to thank him for sending pictures back on the first day of the storm. It was really, really wild, but hope all you guys are keeping warm and listening to NightVision Radio right now. So tonight, my guest is the Reverend Michael Carter. He's been a guest of mine in the past when he had his first book out, Alien Scriptures. And now that he has his new book out, I had to have him back on because this, while it does refer certainly to references in the scriptures of ETs, it goes even further than that. And his new book is called A New World If You Can Take It. Oh, my goodness. So welcome, Michael, back one more time to NightVision Radio.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, René.
You know, and we'd be remiss if we didn't also mention Mark Eddy for his help in getting this show going today. Thanks, Mark, for sending info over to me on Michael's behalf. And also want to mention Brian Kennard over at GraveDistractions.com. That's Grave Distractions Publishing, who publishes Michael's books and actually some books of other friends of mine and other guests that we've had on this show before. Brian does a wonderful job, and I just found out that he's responsible for that wild cover on Michael's new book. So, which I was asking, where did you get that idea? Where did that come from? And I know that you and Brian worked on that together, and he played a big part in it. So we want to give him credit for that. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Brian and Mark have been godsends, and I stand on their shoulders. I stand on the shoulders of a lot of people. So, but
we all, though, really?
Yes, I'm really happy, and I'm glad that you mentioned them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, they're both good friends and good friends of the show, and also great people in the seeking of truth that we're all going through. I think we're all sort of in this together. Oh, I see Mark is in the chat room, so he's saying you're welcome. But I owe him $10. So hey,
always trying to get $1, huh, Mark?
Exactly. Well, that's cheap at twice the price. So anyhow, but let's dive into the subject, Michael. So, you know, you are a real live preacher, a real live church minister, and yet you have these beliefs about possibly our ancient origins. You believe in ETs, and in fact have had your own experiences.
Yes, it's interesting. I don't preach this from my pulpit. I don't feel called to have, quote unquote, a UFO church. I know that's not what you're implying. I will occasionally throw in a quote from John Mack or Whitley or, just someone from the community, but it's always in the context of whatever my topic is that particular Sunday. My congregation is very much aware of what I do, though. I mean, they've seen me on Ancient Aliens. Some of them have purchased my books. I'm always surprised. Last Sunday, someone came through the receiving line and shook my hand and said, "Hey, I'm having a good time with this," and he pulled out alien scriptures. So it's never a dull moment. Yes, I am an experiencer. I continue to have experiences to the present day. I'm glad for them, even though they were very frightening at the beginning, not so much because of what these brothers and sisters did to me, but just the fear of the bizarre looking people, coming in my room at night, that kind of thing. But it's been great, and it's opened me up to the possibility. Well, I would say it's not even possible that the universe is teeming with life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And it's been a journey. I've met some wonderful people.
So we've all heard of these so-called alien abduction experiences,
yes,
where people are completely freaked out and they have nightmares about it. They live in fear about it. Yes. But are you sort of indicating that the sort of negative part about it was really just the fear of the unknown at the time, and once you sort of were able to sort of reconcile that, did the experiences become what you would term positive?
Well, to me, they were always positive. Now, I want to be clear, René, that I do acknowledge and I do respect and I do believe in other folk who've had the trauma. The sperm taking, the ovum, the rectal probes. I mean, just the horrific things that can happen. I think that's very real. I, to my knowledge, have not had that. Even in hypnosis with with the late Bud Hopkins when he was alive, with the late Gene Mundy. Wonderful people at what they did. I did not have that. Now, I did have some painful things happen, but by and large, my experiences, I believe, enhance my spiritual growth. And that's where I kind of differ, because I want people to know, just like with human beings, you have some people who have good intentions or what have you, and you have people who don't. But I don't want to be one of those people who paint all off-world intelligences as evil, or or here to run some hybrid program or what have you. So I want to let people know that there are positive results, and for my part, it was a lot of personal transformation and a raising of consciousness.
Now, when your experiences started as a child, right?
They did. I could not put I couldn't articulate it. I mean, I would wake up sometimes with a lot of, I thought I had nosebleeds. I didn't know why I would have blood on my pillow. And, I don't have a history of nosebleeds. And I would wake up and there'd be these orbs in my room, various colors, and they would be floating. I could see them. It was three-dimensional. And they would just circle in front of my eyes. They would be red or blue or green. And they looked like they were like circles, but they had like little dots in them. And I would see it all the time. But I thought everybody saw it. So I was like, hey, what's the big deal? I would see the aura around people. I still do to this day, around objects, around tables, chairs, around people. I could see the colors change around them when they were thinking things and what have you. But on December 28th, 1989, there was no doubt, because that's when I had my first contact experience where there was an individual there. It was a being. I was wide awake. that kind of thing. But I later found out from other experiences that I may have had an implant put in, and that's why I will wake up with blood on my pillow, because I don't have a history of nosebleeds. I didn't know. I thought I was bleeding from my ear or something. I was like, why do I have blood on my pillow?
Interesting.
Yeah. Who was it? Kierkegaard, who says that life is lived forward, but it's only understood backwards.
Oh, how true is that?
Yeah. So that's what was going on, and but for me again, I think it's made me a better person, and I live my life less fearfully. I'm more open to saying I'm sorry, I'm scared, I don't know. Now I was always working on myself, meditation, prayer. I have my rituals that I do, but it was almost that this accelerated it. Because remember, I did not believe in UFOs. I thought that was a bunch of you-know-what. And I remember growing up in Baltimore, and I remember a young man, we were down on Howard Street near the Civic Center, and I don't know how we got on the subject, but I remember this guy saying to me, he was astonished. He said, "You don't believe in UFOs?" And I said, "No, I don't believe in any of that stuff." And he said, "Why not?" And my answer was, "Because it's not in the Bible."
Oh boy.
Yeah. What a difference 58 years makes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, well, we're going to get into some of those biblical references soon, because I know everyone's excited about those and really interested in those. And that's what has made your first book so successful. And I believe that was a bestseller, wasn't it?
Whitley Strieber, on Amazon. On Amazon, it was on Amazon, I think back in March, almost a year ago, on the topic of UFOs. And my friend Whitley Strieber said that Alien Scriptures in the Holy Bible is the best book ever written on the subject. Now, he was very gracious. And I said, well, can I use that quote? He said, sure. But remember, Dr. Barry Downing, back in 1968, wrote the Bible, and Flying Saucers. Morris K. Jessup, who died under mysterious circumstances, wrote a book called UFOs and the Bible. Reverend Virginia Brasington, was from my part of the country where I live now, here in North Carolina, had written a book on the subject. So, I just kind of took the ball and ran with it. I think the difference between myself and those folks, we have a very different theology. I think I'm probably a little more progressive or liberal in my theological views, but I'm also an experiencer. And to the best of my knowledge, Barry, Morris, Jessup, and Virginia Brasington, I don't think they were contactees. So I bring that to the table as well.
Yeah, you bring that perspective. And also, don't you think that it's also partially about where we are as a developing society, or as an evolving humanity, that we're more familiar with these kinds of things now, with these ideas, so that what you're telling us and the way that you're bringing it into context is a little bit easier for us to get or understand today than maybe even 20, 30 years ago. It's just, I think people sort of get to a place where they're more open about certain things.
Yes, I agree. I mean, when I first started talking about this 20 years ago, I never mentioned my contact experiences. I was afraid. It was suicide, a career suicide. And my first publisher, Barbara DeBolt, she said, Michael, you got to tell your story. You've got to, it's nice that you do the research with the Bible and that kind of thing, but you really have to tell. But I also feel, René, and you hit on it, it's about human evolution. That's the message that I've been getting from these off-world intelligences, that we're not here to take over your planet. We're not here to run your life. We're here to take humankind to the next stage of evolution, but you're too violent. You are too warlike. You are too fearful of difference. And so in order for us to go to that next stage, we have to have a new perspective on religion and what that means. This also brings together spirituality and technology. The United States of America has all the technology it can handle, but we don't have the spirituality to go with it. And so, therefore, it can be a very dangerous mixture. We make drones with new technology. We make weapons of war. What would happen if we use some of this technology to feed this planet? To give people $15 an hour to live on. An hour to work with. What would happen if we use this technology and our spirituality to not compete, but to cooperate? And so we are dangerous not only to ourselves, of course, with all the nuclear stuff that's going on, we're a danger to life elsewhere in the universe.
Absolutely. You're talking about this spirit or idea of cooperation, and it does seem like there is, at least the seed or the kernel of that idea that I'm seeing, popping up from different quarters. I know we had Michael Tellinger on as a guest not too long ago, and he was talking about the Ubuntu movement, which is basically their idea of contributionism. I think the word Ubuntu actually just means human.
Yes.
And so, but the idea is everyone contributes. And and everyone benefits instead of just a very few. And I kind of feel like we've sort of, on the one hand, as a society, reached this lopsidedness to where the wealth is so poorly distributed. And on the other hand, I think we've started to get people thinking this can't be beneficial for the planet. If everyone's starving and these few people are living in, 100-room homes, how does that help the planet? So I feel like these ideas are getting more and more welcomed by, people at large in society, more so than they used to be, because here in America, we're taught, capitalistic society, what is admired and what is successful in this country is what they call pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps and making a go of it, but actually, if there was a cooperative nature and everyone was helping everyone, wouldn't that really be a better way to go than just fighting your way to the top, climbing up the ladder on the backs of whoever might be in your way? So I like that idea that you're talking about. How does it go into effect?
Well, I first of all, I agree with you, and I know it is a matter of perspective. Is the glass full or is the glass half full, half empty? You have a lot of people running around saying it's the end times and Armageddon, and Jesus is going to come again, and we're all going to be barbecued if we don't believe the same way. But I think it does start with the individual. And I don't mean that in a narcissistic way. We have a speaker, a politician coming to speak at our church this Sunday. I'm off, but I'm speaking at another church. And the title of her talk is called The Myth of Individualism. And we all stand on the shoulders of other people. And so there is a myth to that. And individualism has gone amok in Western culture because it's all about me, 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 me. Now, having said that, I think that the world does change one person at a time. And tying it into our contact experiences, it's not so much about, at least in my mind, about the contact, but it's about the change of consciousness. It's about, there's an old saying that once a mind has had a different experience, it's hard to go back to the old way of thinking. And so, Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world. I can't control what's going on in Ukraine. I can't do anything about what's going on with Hezbollah and Netanyahu. I wish I could. But what I can do is, change myself And that ripple effect, because everything is energy, does go out and change the world. And when I go out tomorrow, got to go to work, got to be at the church, how do I deal with my fellow human beings? You know, so that's how the world changes, one person at a time. But it begins, what's Michael Jackson's old song, The Man or Woman in the Mirror. Mm-hmm. That's who you got to change.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Now, do you feel like do you feel like we're headed toward, you know, sort of reaching critical mass in, you know, people starting to see that? I kind of almost hate to use the word awakened.
It's a good word. It's a good word.
I guess it is. I'm not sure if people were necessarily asleep or more like hoodwinked, you know, and sort of, rather than awakening, they're beginning to sort of come out of the fog, you know, which I guess is in some ways the same thing. But do you feel like we're headed toward that? Are we headed toward something wonderful? Or is it, you know, just going to be more of the same? And it seems like, you know, I hate to say it, but it seems like religion is a big problem.
That's why I wrote my book. Yeah, religion is a big problem. Well, first of all, yes, to your first part of your question, I have the audacity to believe in love, even to this day. I have the audacity to hope. I think that we're going through some transformation, and it's going to get a little rougher. So people need to put the seatbelts on. But I do think, I'm not a doom and gloom person. I'm not looking for Armageddon or the apocalypse. Those are certainly possibilities. Greg Braden talks about the Heisenberg principle, which is possibilities. If we focus on the world we want, then we will change. But if we focus on what we don't want, I mean, it's quantum physics, right? What you focus on, you create. So I believe that we are going through birth pangs. A new world is coming, but there's going to be some turbulence. That's the way I look at it. Now, it depends. Again, is the glass of water half full or is it half empty? But if I believed otherwise, I wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. What's the big deal? Why get out of bed if we're going to all go to you-know-where in a handbasket? I mean, it's anti-intellectual. You know, people are saying, oh, it's all going to end and, you know, we're going to have this big war, World War III. Then why do you get up? Why do you get up in the morning?
Yeah.
If it's really that bleak. So I tend to side with it's a new world if you can take it. Religion is a problem, the way we've been looking at religion. And it's not just ISIS. I mean, even though we're still fighting the Crusades. In my part of the country, well, I would argue in the whole country, in some ways, we're still fighting the Civil War. But having said that, one of the reasons I wrote the book is to go a little bit further than ancient astronaut theorists who basically are saying that our religions were possibly created intentionally or not, consciously or not, by off-world intelligences. I say you got a point. Now, what's the next step? Are we saying that God is an extraterrestrial? You know, a lot of off-world intelligences, whether you read the literature or not, a lot of them think that our religions are primitive because the way we express them, it separates rather than unites. So God is Santa Claus. If you're naughty, you're going to burn in hell. If you're nice, you go to heaven. That's really a childlike view of how the universe works. Now, it works for some people. My God, it worked for me at one point. But you know, sometimes as we move on, we see things a little differently, and so we need to. Michael feels that I think we need a more mature perspective on spirituality and religion. Thus the book. I'm a clergy person, and I'm the first to tell you that, hey man, these religious wars, because that's what they basically are. Yes, there's oil. Yes, there's money and resources always, But basically, because you don't believe or you don't call God the same name I do, or heaven help us, you may not even believe in a God. Well, we're going to kill you in the name of God.
Yeah, it's very infantile. It really, really is.
It really is. And so, but there's a different way. We don't have to chuck it all. That's why we have teachers and avatars like Buddha and Jesus, and great, Joan of Arc. We have, Mother Teresa, and yes, they are larger than life figures. But you don't have to be larger than life. It's everyday folk. It's how we treat one another. It's how we relate to ourselves and the planet. Because I will know what you believe, not by how many times you're at prayer meeting on Wednesday night, not by how many times you're in the mosque or the shul or the temple on the weekend or church. I know what you believe by how you treat me. It's as simple as that. A wise rabbi said over 2,000 years ago, by their fruits you shall know them.
And who is that wise rabbi?
I'll get back to you on that. I got to look that up.
Yeah.
No, this is Jesus of Nazareth.
Of course.
And it really, look, Ray Charles can see it. I will go by your actions, not by what you tell me. People will tell you anything. And no, that doesn't mean that people don't make mistakes. And, of course they do. But basically, I will know what you believe by how you live your life. And you'll know what I believe by how I live my life.
That's absolutely
my life is the greatest sermon that you'll ever hear.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And, it's funny. You hear people talking about the Illuminati and the New World Order and things like that, and saying that they want to get rid of religion and, unite people, under a more spiritual way. And, people are looking at that like that's a really bad thing. And now, I don't really know any Illuminati that I know of. None of them have identified themselves to me. But it seems to me like humanity uniting in a more spiritual way is a good thing. Maybe they have ulterior motives, but, for what they're saying. But that idea in itself, that sounds kind of good to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know I can hear my fundamentalist or evangelical Christians talking about a new world order and the Antichrist and the false prophet and all that. And but see, the thing about religion is that we set boundaries. Okay, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. Someone else may be evangelical Christian. Someone else may be Greek Orthodox, Muslim, whatever. But the thing is that we have our boundaries, but the point is that we transcend them. And it's almost like a paradox where we set up, one doesn't have to give up being Roman Catholic to get it that there are other ways to God, if you want to use that word. And then when you're open to that, you realize that there really are no boundaries, that we're all going to the same place. We just have different ways of getting there. But the way human beings use religion, we use it to separate, like we do politics. You're Tea Party.
Yep.
I like Obama.
Yep.
You're an independent. I'm just using this hypothetically.
Sure. Absolutely.
So we use it to separate. And again, if you want to create a world, if you want to create a world that you want, then you have to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. So instead of focusing on Illuminati, focus on a more cooperative planet.
Yep. You know what? Hold it right there, Michael, if you don't mind. Sorry about that. We're going to have to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this thought and much, much more with the Reverend Michael Carter. We'll be right back.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, Inception Radio Network. Would you like your favorite show to be played again live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's live request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's live request portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, even write a dedication message, and that's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com, click on the live request tab under the show menu. Now playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again. Psst. Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN chat lounge, the game lounge, video lounge, or the mood lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to NightVision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Night Vision Radio. I'm your host, René Barnett, and we're talking to the Reverend Michael Carter about his ET experiences and also about his latest book called A New World If You Can Take It, which I'm looking forward to it. I don't know about you guys, but I think we could use some big changes around here. So anyway, Michael, if I could just throw some stuff in from the chat room. People were talking. I know we were speaking a little bit earlier, obviously, about religion, and there were some questions from the chat room. One is the Vatican, specifically the Pope, preparing the masses for a possible alien arrival or disclosure in the future? Now, I don't know if you have a pipeline directly to the Pope, but but I think you did address this question in your new book.
I did, and the answer to that question, in my humble estimation, is yes. The Vatican has been talking about this for quite a while, and I know they had I think if you can Google this, they had a conference, I think, in 2005 with other religious leaders. And I think they may have met at the UN, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. I also feel that the Vatican, that Catholicism will handle this much better than Protestant Christianity, because they have a hierarchy. They have angels and saints and what have you. So they have a hierarchy, if you will, and they're open to other other beings, for lack of a better word.
And also, do you think that they have a more sort of mystical approach to religion in some ways?
Yes, I think that's a wonderful. Thank you very much. I think they do, and so and religions like Hinduism, they'll be fine because they have other lesser deities and that are different aspects of the Brahman. So Catholicism has the saints, and there's Michael, and there's Raphael, and there's Uriel in Judaism. I mean, so we have we can look at that as other deities. They're not the Godhead, if you will. So they won't have so much. They'll be able to adapt to it. And of course, Pope Francis is very outspoken on many social issues. But of course, talking about that, that extraterrestrial life does not conflict with Catholic theology. And of course, Monsignor Balladucci, who had died, he was a Vatican exorcist, talking about the reality of extraterrestrial life. So I think, yes, if you will. But remember, disclosure is happening now. A lot of people are waiting for Obama or who's going to be Caesar next. Maybe Jeb Bush will be Caesar, or Clintons. I mean, I'm over these dynasties, but waiting for them to come out on the White House lawn and say, "Guess what, folks? We're not alone." That may happen. I don't think it will, but it may happen. But remember, with all these nations releasing their UFO data, Mexico, Brazil, the UK, France, China, it's happening right now. But we can't see it because we're so busy looking at other things. And what I wanted to say before the break was that we're so busy talking about the Nephilim and the Anunnaki, and these are lovely subjects, but we're so focused on technology that we're missing the thing that will take us over the top, and that's the evolution of consciousness. Many people who have looked with these beings in the eye, you come back transformed. But we don't talk about that too much anymore. We talk about people getting anal probes and all that, and that goes on. But what about the spiritual trend? This is what John Mack was all about. Yeah. This is what the early contactees, whether you like George Adamski, to a great extent Billy Meyer, who I talk about a lot. Yes, they were human beings. They may have stretched the truth here and there. I don't know. But I do know the message that they gave all had the same theme. And that was like, we need to change our ways if we want to go to the next level. We need to start bringing our A game, because the planet and ourselves, we're going to destroy each other.
And when you since you have had these experiences and you have had communications, what do they say to you, if anything, about, will there be some great show of their presence, or is that even important?
The only information that I have gotten was this, that we are not here. Now, these are the beings that I've seen 3 races. So I can't speak for people who've met praying mantis or the Arcturians or what have you. But know that they're out there. That we fight too much. No one's here to take over your planet. No one's here to control your destiny. We're trying to help you go to the next level of evolution. You are more powerful and more creative and more loving than you think you are, but you are too violent. You are too fear-based. Your religions are primitive. You are, we need more of an idea of social justice, of equity. That's what they're talking about. And if you go back, this message is, where have we heard this before? For Christian folk out there, this is the message of Jesus of Nazareth. This is the message that, and it's not the only one, that's just, been my thing, but this is the message. This is an old message. It's just that it's hard to get. People say, well, that's not sexy. We hear that all the time. No, but we don't do it. We can't do it. Pick up a newspaper. It's a mess. But we have to go through this in order to get to the other side. And people want to take us back to the 1950s, and some people in this country. But life doesn't go backward. Life goes forward. And so people are going to hold on to the old paradigm. But they can hold on all they want. Victor Hugo says, nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Yep. And that's why you hear and you see people all over the world now talking about this old way's not working. I can't keep working 70 hours a week for less than minimum wage. There was a time we wouldn't know who the Koch brothers were. The Koch brothers, whatever their name is, because they were the power behind the power. Yeah. No lie lives forever. Now we're putting a face on things. That's evolution. That's evolution.
Yeah. Nothing is hidden that won't be uncovered.
Yes.
And you see things popping out all the time. But what about, you mentioned that you had met 3 races of ETs. Could you talk a little bit about those races? What were the races? Were the Greys one of the races?
Well, see, they weren't Grey. The brother who came in my room, I'm assuming it was a man. That could be my own sexism. Was chalk white. He had the phenotype of what we call, the Grey brothers and sisters. Spindly, kind of when it walked, it didn't really walk. It kind of glided, kind of jerky movements. 4 feet tall, little, very thin. Had the aluminum foil jumpsuit. I've seen the reptilians, 2 different kinds. One of them looked like Spider-Man, only with lizard skin, and the eyes were yellow, gorgeous. Looking back, but then I thought I was going to have my heart pop out of my chest. And with the pupils are vertical. Okay, like your cat's.
Right.
And then the brother who came in my room and healed the blood clot I had on July 4th, 2013 at 9:50 p.m., he was a humanoid. I mean, he had blonde hair, very pale, not white, not tall white, very big, muscular, had a cowl on, like the Renaissance monks used with, a hoodie, a 15th century hoodie, I guess we could call it that, and he looked human. I guess we could say Palladian. He was very pale, blue eyes, big. The reptilians are big, and this brother was big, like he went to the gym or something.
Now, you hear so much negative stuff about the reptilians, and they're taking over the world, and, you have the whole David Icke take on everything.
Yeah.
What was your experience with the reptilians?
My experience was there was nothing like that. They did no harm to me. He touched me. Again, after seeing the little chalk-colored people. Of course, I'd read about reptilians and what have you, but I'd never seen one face to face. But that's the thing that gets me. It's like racism. If one black person steals your purse, then all black people are suspect.
Right.
If you had one experience with a reptilian, then all reptilians are. And that also goes back to the serpent thing in the Bible. The serpent is evil, and in Genesis and what have you. So that kind of archetype sticks with us. But no, was I scared? Was the bejesus scared out of me? You better believe it. This individual walked through my wall. Of course I was scared. But nothing untoward happened. As a matter of fact, he told me, telepathically, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Easy for him to say. Of course I was afraid. But, nothing. My spiritual growth has been accelerated from these experiences. I'm not saying everyone's has to be, but what I am begging people, please don't judge a whole lot by a little bit. And if you read something, that doesn't mean it's true. I respect David Icke's work, but he's human. He makes mistakes. Anytime you start saying those people, then you got a problem.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the chat room, Neutron says, and I think in many ways you've answered this, but maybe you could expand on it a little bit more. With so much testimony pointing at alien abductions not being positive from abductees, what makes Michael think it's positive?
Because one person can't speak for the millions of people who did not. Notice everything I'm saying. That this is my experience.
That's right.
But why not research some other literature? If the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So you're reading all the material that talks about negative experiences. Why not use the other side of your brain and read the other data that talks about positive experiences? Why not read Dr. Richard Borland's book, Positive Experiences with Extraterrestrials? Ever pick that one up? Why not pick up and go back and read the work of Dr. John Mack? Why not read some of the earlier contactees and their experiences? I mean, the data's right there. It depends on what you want to focus on.
That's true.
That doesn't mean that there aren't negative experiences. It just means that there's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. I hope that answers this question.
Yeah, I think it does. And, it's so true. I remember, maybe back in the 80s, when I was involved in researching UFOs and alien abduction. And I remember there was a very big schism between people that were saying, that they were having an alien abduction experience and people that were claiming to have a contactee experience. There were abductees and contactees, and they didn't want to know. They didn't want to know each other's side of the story. It was real. And I was thinking, well, it's funny because they're having experiences, but they're just, why divide up into two camps? Why not just acknowledge that this was my perception of my experience, and you may perceive something else with your experience, or you might have had a completely different experience than I did. But they're maybe not so separate. It's like, obviously they're all contactees. They've all made contact with some other form of being, but it's their perception or their experience personally that's negative, and not necessarily the whole.
Exactly.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly. It depends on what you want to focus on. And, who was it? I forget, was it Plato? Who was it that said that the sign of a mature mind is someone who can hold two opposite ideas and still be able to make a decision? I mean, again, and I'm, it irks me. This is why you hear so much passion, because basically we do that with religion and everything else. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. And so because I have positive experiences doesn't negate the negative ones that people had. And because people had negative experiences doesn't delete the positive experiences. So, again, it's look at the data. That's why you have people who say, I don't call myself an abductee, I call myself a contactee or an experiencer. But again, it depends on where you want to focus. And I'm not here to change anybody's mind, but if you want to focus on that, then that's what you're going to get.
You mentioned that you had, was it the reptilian that healed your blood clot?
No, it was the blonde brother.
The blonde brother. So
that was 2 years ago. That was on July 4th.
And Neutron in the chat room again wants to know, what other medical procedures have they done on you?
I had a needle stuck in the back of my head when early on, right in the back where the spine meets the bottom, the top of the spine meets the bottom of my head. And it hurt like, I'm not even going to use the expletive, And I was talking to a friend of mine about it that was an old-time contactee, and he said, you know what, you got to set some parameters with these people. You got to tell them, look, that's unacceptable. And I thought he was joking. He said, no, Michael, you got to have some power in this. And so I did one day in my meditations. And even after that day, when I woke up, well, I wasn't asleep. I was paralyzed. And they stuck the thing in the back of my head, and it hurt. And I jumped up. And I used to keep a golf club in my room. I know I don't play golf. I was doing a show, and I was playing a caddy. And I remember picking it up, and I remember standing in the middle of my bedroom in my underwear, and my girlfriend at the time must have thought, what have I gotten myself into? Screaming at the ceiling, you can't do that, man. What the hell that, Anyway, I did tell them in my meditations, and of course screaming at the top of my lungs, that was unacceptable. So, as fate would have it, about a month later, I was in bed, and it got quiet again, and, because it gets really quiet before they come, and even like the energy in the room changes. It gets thicker. I don't know how to explain it. And they showed me a picture of a little needle, and they put it in the crown of my head. I could barely feel it. So they listened. Now, I had to go through a little pain, but my intuitive and psychic abilities were really enhanced after that. And I was always always somewhat like that. My mom and grandmom, that they don't like the word psychic, but they're very open. They're a different generation, Yeah. But, okay, now, someone could say, see, look what they did. They heard him, and he thinks that it's positive. Well, it was. When you take your pet to the vet, don't they stick them and prod them and all that? We don't get, we don't, that's okay, though. That's okay, because it's humans doing it. That's all right. So, again, brother, what's his name? Metatron or Tetatron or whatever his name is?
Oh, Neutron.
Neutron. Hey, Neutron. Yeah. So that's what I know. Now, when Bud had, when the late Bud Hopkins had regressed me and the late G. Mundy in my hypnosis sessions, no other medical stuff came up. Other visits came up. But that didn't come up. So to my ability, to my knowledge, that's it. But again, you got to go back. What am I talking about? I'm talking about love. I'm talking about higher consciousness. I'm talking about how to live in peace. So yes, I got stuck in the head with a syringe, but I'm trying to live my life in a loving way. So don't worry about the medical experiments. Worry about don't worry at all, honestly, but look at how I'm living my life, brother. That's the key to any of this. Whether you get visited by other people or not, don't worry about all that other stuff. How am I living my life? How am I treating my planet? How am I treating my men and women and people of color and gay folk? And how am I treating them? Then you'll know what Reverend Carter believes. Not whether someone poked him in the butt with something and he got regressed and told you that. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. And we missed the whole message. We can't see the forest for the trees.
I got another question for you from the chat room if you're game. Bill says, is the media, specifically Hollywood, portraying ETs as having evil or malevolent intentions to create fear and reason not to disclose to the public, or even a false flag invasion?
I would say yes. We do it whether we want to start wars. We saw it with 9/11. We see it, well, we could be watching it go on with Iran. If we'll do it for that, we'll do it for a lot of other things. I say, yeah. I have a good friend. He lives in the Netherlands. He's a big George Adamski person. And we talk about this all the time. He's not an experiencer. I highly commend his books to you. His name is Gerard Hartson. And he talks about, and we talk about, these humanoid folk who can get on an elevator with you, and you may not know who it is. You don't hear much about them. In Europe you do, but you don't hear much about them here. And he said, Michael, one of the reasons is we want to inundate everybody with the gray brother or sister, or the tall whites, that they look a different way. It's xenophobia in some ways, but we don't want to talk about those because these other people could be in the Pentagon. They could be walking, they could be in our places of power. We don't want people getting used to that, because the more they look like you, the harder it is to really wish them bad things or try to hurt them. That's why when you go to war, they indoctrinate you for a while, so you can think of your enemy as not human.
Right.
He's not human, because if he or she is human, it's hard to pull that trigger. And then we're not talking about American Sniper. So anyway, that's another show. But we don't talk about the humanoid ones because and I just never thought of it that way, because they're a lot like us. And yes, people have seen ETs who look like they could be African American or Egyptian or whatever. The Syrians, I'm talking about from the planet Sirius, allegedly or can appear as dark-skinned people. But I do think we're being set up in some ways, because if there ever is a war, we've already to be indoctrinated that these beings, they look like bugs, they look like cockroaches, they look like praying mantis, they're not human, yada, 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 yada. So you have to discern where people are coming from. And how do you do that? By cultivating your own spirituality, by having a meditation practice, by having a contemplation practice, through prayer, through meditation, through being in nature. So you can learn to keep out the noise and stay true to your own center. That's what this is. That's what they're talking about. Human evolution. Human evolution is cultivating a spiritual life. It's cultivating an inner life. No one can do that for us.
That's right. And these, scary stories that were being told, and people concentrating on, the negative part and the differences between us and them. It also is, I'm sure, because what if they're telling, this message about, love and peace and cooperation, then that really kind of runs counter to some of the motives of some of the people who are telling these scary stories, I would imagine.
Well, careful. No, listen, there are grays who talk about that. But see, the thing is that, again, it's not about denying that bad things have happened. We're not denying that. We're not talking about an ostrich mentality. But we are saying that doesn't mean it's all bad for everybody. It doesn't mean that. And so if I hear that, I'll give an example. I moved to the South from New York City. Okay? I'm in an interracial marriage. My wife is a Southerner. She can trace her roots back to the Confederacy. They must be spinning in their graves, but that's another story. I come down here. I see Confederate flags. I see some people who I couldn't do anything to them but shine their shoes. So I come down here, and I meet people who wear Confederate flags that treat me better than some people who look like me. So what do I say, folks? That all the people with Confederate flags are bad and crazy? Or do I say, well, there is a lot of that going on, but in my experience, I've met some people with Confederate flag tattoos and whatever who treated me like the king of Obaba Bow Wow. Okay? They treated me great. Okay? But we don't do that. All the Muslims are bad. All the grays are bad. All the reptilians are bad. Get it, people? You don't do that.
Let's think about that for just a moment, and we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back with the Reverend Michael Carter.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app, you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN chat lounge, game lounge, video lounge, or the mood lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless, so use your time wisely by keeping it all on IRN.
Hi, Bob Tarmac for MJsHealthyWay.com. Are you into vitamins, nutrition, meal replacements, health shakes, keeping your body in good shape, your internal engine going? Boy, do I have a perfect place for you. MJsHealthyWay.com. They offer the best service and products, and they'll tell you anything you need to know about any product they have to offer. I get all my vitamins, meal replacements, shakes from MJsHealthyWay.com. That's spelled MJsHealthyWay.com. There's so much more at the website. Go check it out. MJsHealthyWay.com.
Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Just a reminder that Inception Radio Network is on Twitter. Follow us at I_R_N and keep up to date about who's on tonight, what interviews they'll be doing, who's guest spotting, what topics they'll be covering. Tweet to us, tweet about us, retweet topics to your friends, and most importantly, never miss a great show again. That's I_R_N.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. Would you like your favorite show to be played live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's Live Request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's Live Request portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click requests, and even write a dedication message. That's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com. Click on the Live Request tab under the show menu. Playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to NightVision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you've just joined us, we're talking to the Reverend Michael Carter. He's the author of his latest book called A New World If You Can Take It, God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. So you can get that book. You can get it on gravedistractions.com, which is his publisher's website. You can also get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, just about anywhere. So please pick it up and have a look. It's not a super long book, which in my book is a plus, as we're all busy, and this is a lot of material. It's very concise, though, and it's very easy to read. So I would recommend it to everybody. It's a new way of looking at things, and we're talking about a new paradigm, a new way of being for all of us. So, Michael, now, did you want to say anything else about the book? Is that the best way to get it? Is through Amazon?
Yeah, they can get it, and they can get it in soft cover. They can get it on Nook or Kindle. Basically, the book is this, because I'm liking where we were going before. I wrote the book after Alien Scriptures, after being on, doing the TV appearances on Ancient Aliens. I wanted to take it a step further. And I wanted to say, okay, let's say that these ETs were here and they started religion, purposely or not, but we don't know, but it happened. And so where do we go from here? Do we say God is an extraterrestrial? I argue in the book, no. But there is an energy, there is an intelligence. We can't name it, because whatever you name, the finite can never describe the infinite. And I talk in the book about other ways of being spiritual or religious, that if you don't want to get involved with churches or what have you, there's other ways, but you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. The Bible has a lot of wisdom in it. The Bible has a lot of lessons in it. And so that's where I wanted to go. That's why it's called God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. We are going to have to mature. Remember the book by Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End?
Yes.
Well, yeah, when we find out we're not the highest thing on the food chain, so now it becomes, how are we going to act now? How are we going to behave towards one another? How are we going to, that's why I love exopolitics. Yes, they have their battle lines drawn, but we don't, they don't talk about, does ET exist? They say, of course, we know it now. Now, how is one civilization going to interact with the other civilization? I think that's where we are now. People out here who are still trying to find smoking guns, get over it. We know now. 48% of the American people believe in extraterrestrial life. 50% of the American people believe that our government is hiding stuff from us. So that's off the table now. We don't have to try to prove it anymore. Now we need to know, what are we going to do now? Because eventually, and for people like me and other contactees, you're going to meet these people. How are we going to deal with them? Are we going to deal with them with fear? Are we going to let these false flags and what have you control the way that we interact? Are we going to learn to grow up? Or are we going to shoot first and ask questions later? Which we see where that gets us. That gets us to 3 minutes to midnight.
Yep. Now, what do you think about, I see that, in your new book, you have a lot of biblical references, which I find really interesting. I think it's on page 19 of the book.
Okay.
And you start with the Old Testament, and you name all these references. So obviously, you subscribe somewhat to the theory of, the ancient astronauts and sort of the Zecharia Sitchin type theories.
Yes.
And so this is obviously something that's been going on, longer than humans have existed, if we're to believe that, or at least modern human existed. So how is this relevant to us today, and why has it taken so long? Is it because we were, just too animalistic? Or actually, I hate to give animals a bad name because I don't think they act as badly as as humans do. But my goodness, this seems to have been going on for century after century after century. So are we, arrogant to think that this is the time when it's all going to be made clear to us? Or we're certain, we're the guys that are evolved enough to handle this sort of thing. I mean, why now? Or is it now? Or is this, we're just like a step along the way, and this could be something, that's 1,000 years away from now?
Wow, those were a lot of questions, Renee. I'm going to try to get the big ones.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Well, first of all, I put it in the book. I think it's relevant now for all the obvious reasons. Whether you're on YouTube, and of course some of them are doctored up, but a lot of these are really genuine photographs of UFOs. It's relevant now because one thing, again, I said at the top of the show, this phenomenon helps us to merge spirituality and technology. That's number one. So I think it's very relevant for that. Number two is that why now is because we are at a tipping point. We have climate change. We have wars and rumors of wars. At any given moment, there's like 130 wars going on the planet. Some that we don't know about, but you can always go where our troops are. You will see that there's always the possibility or something going on under the guise of terrorism. Meanwhile, one cannot conquer an idea, but that's another show. We are at a tipping point where we have come to the brink because of this belief in separateness. And so we are seeing these craft in our skies. Some of their messages are, we were like you millions of years ago. We destroyed our planet. We know what you're getting ready to get into. And some of it is just, hey, man, you are a danger to this neighborhood. Let's just put it out there. There goes the neighborhood. And so it's crucial. But it's also a time where we can make the changes we need to make in order to go to that next phase of evolution, in order to get in touch with the deep oneness that resides in each and every one of us, in order to be able to use our psychic abilities and our healing abilities to create the world that we want to see. But I go back again to quantum physics. Jesus says, it's done unto you as you believe. So if you believe we're going to go to hell in a handbasket, if you get 5 billion out of the 8 billion people to go there, then that's where we're going. It's the power of our thought. Our thoughts are things. Whether it's the paradigm in our relationships, health. We don't treat health, we treat illness. We don't focus on peace, we focus on war. And so we have the power to change that. And again, this is not kumbaya, let's all hold hands and sing kumbaya. There's justice involved here. This is not the love of let's sing kumbaya. There's a justice component to love. But we got to change our ways. King said it best. We will learn to live together as brothers or sisters or perish together as fools. The choices before humankind are not nonviolence versus violence, but nonviolence versus non-existence.
I tell you, it's boggles the mind. I mean, it's such a hopeful message that you're giving, as opposed to the negative ones that we get all the time from the news and also from these scary alien stories. It would be wonderful to be open to the idea that maybe that somebody's out there that's lived a little bit longer or been around, their society has been around a little bit longer, we could actually learn something from. And if they're willing to help us and give us some advice, I mean, that seems like a wonderful thing. Now, why do you think that it seems to me like they have abilities, or, certainly they've evolved in ways that we haven't quite yet. They seem to have the technology or whatever it takes to get from here to there that we haven't quite sussed out yet. They seem to have a great way of communicating that's telepathic, that it seems that when we're with them we can do that, but on our own we're not so great. But why is it that they haven't intervened and said, okay, we're going to stop you guys from blowing each other up. Because it seems to me like they could have power over us.
Well, first of all, they have intervened. That's why Robert Hastings has that wonderful book out, UFOs and Nukes, where military people are coming out saying they shut down our missile silos.
Well, yeah,
okay.
There's the Bentwaters case for one, yeah.
So and that's a wonderful book. I commend it highly. Number two is, if they intervene, what message is that? First of all, we would worship them as gods, or we would shoot them down. We do that anyway. Thirdly, when your child makes a mess, as they get older, do you clean it up for them? And you say, you got to clean up your own mess. You made it. And so we can't get used to someone coming behind us. Then there's no accountability. There's no accountability. It's not my fault. Or we made a mess. Okay, why don't you come help me clean it up? No. Why don't you not make the mess in the first place? I'm not one of those people that says they're going to be saviors. I believe these brothers and sisters are saying, and I said it earlier, you have split the atom. You've had the audacity to split the atom over civilian cities. That's called terrorism. Yes, we have, we shortened World War II by blah, blah, blah. We saved all these lives. You split the atom over non-military targets. Okay, but that's bad enough. You made soap out of people during the Holocaust. There's some issues with you guys. But as long as you're doing that on your own planet, that's okay. But now you've come out into our backyard. You're militarizing space. We can't have that. We simply can't have that. So it's as much self-preservation as it is some form of altruism. Now, I guess in Star Trek, which I just started watching this year, Deep Space Nine, because I didn't watch all that stuff. That's why I didn't believe in UFOs and what have you. They have something called Prime Directive, where it is against the Federation's rules to intervene. Someone should tell Washington this, in the affairs of other planets.
Right.
Okay? We don't have regime change galactically. You don't do that. And so it is my opinion that we've made a mess. And they're here to tell us how we can change the mess. But they're not here to do it for us.
But if they feel that we're a danger to the neighborhood, a danger to the universe, then, do you think there might be a point when they step in? Or
I don't know. I don't want to ever think about that, because if that happened, we must have really gone over the point.
If that happens, I guess we really failed.
We've really gone too far. But I mean, there are military people. There are, if you read Disclosure, if you read Robert Hastings' work, if you read, I know he's got a documentary, either it's out now or coming out. They have shown that. I mean, what more lesson do you need? I'm a military person in charge of nuclear weapons. A ship comes and gives us a big hint. This is unacceptable. And to show you it's unacceptable, we will incapacitate them. I mean, even Stevie Wonder can see maybe we need to be really careful with this. I mean, I don't know. What else could they do?
Yeah, I suppose so. I guess they're probably doing what they can, and maybe there is.
I mean, we have free will. We have free will, because you know what the next argument is? Well, who are they to intervene in our affairs? We have to do that, blah, blah, blah. So you can't win.
That's right. That's right.
They came down here and they did this and da-da-da-da, and they're taking over. You know how human beings are. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, that's right.
They give pretty big hints. And who knows what other things they've done to keep us from being on the brink. We don't know. Or we'll find out later, after some things are sealed, that are opened.
Yeah, well, it's coming out all over, that's for sure. And, certainly across Europe, we're seeing a lot of disclosure. And, we're seeing some come out in the Snowden releases and others regarding, the ET presence. I just don't see how it's sort of like we're finally getting out of the idea that, if I say I saw a UFO, I'm going to be laughed at. It's always like, someone says, oh, I saw something, and everybody, ho, 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 very, but that was sort of 20 years ago. Now, I think you're right. I think people are certainly, and especially, what I think has made a big difference has been the Hubble telescope. Several years back, when all those images started being transmitted back, and we found that our universe was so much bigger than we could have imagined, that, we're a very young planet in a very young solar system. And there are not only other planets out there, but other solar systems that are millions and millions of years older than ours. So why in the world would this be the only place that develops sentient beings, intelligent life? If we can even call ourselves intelligent with some of the things that we do. But it's, I do think people are much more willing to admit that that's really not only a possibility, but it would seem like that would be the most probable way that things would be. Why? Why would we be so arrogant to think we're the only ones? It's, it's too crazy. Now, what do you think? We're going to maybe, get into the idea of what God is, or what you think God is. Now, you're talking about the God of the Old Testament, but that's not the God overall. Am I correct in that?
That's what I believe, René. I believe that, and I'm not the only person who believed that. There were some Gnostics who believed it, and people can buy the book and read about that. But I believe that Yahweh is an extraterrestrial. I believe because of his temper tantrums and his him being jealous and his obsession with who's circumcised and who isn't, and intermarriage. And I think that's not a God I want to worship. He gives people someone else's land, and they kill men, women, and children to go to the promised land. It's all in the Bible. I'm not making it up. For those stubborn people, if you read, I'm reading the Hebrew translation in English, Jeremiah. We're looking at Jeremiah 13, verse 14, and this is the Lord. Now, the Lord is also different. Sometimes the Lord and Yahweh are used interchangeably, but I will smash them one against the other, parents and children alike, declares the Lord. No pity, compassion, or mercy will stop me from destroying them. It's hard to get down on your knees or in the lotus position or any other position with someone who has that kind of attitude about life. But when you're brainwashed as a child, it's hard for you. You don't know the answers are given to you before you get the questions. Now, my good friend Barry Downing, he says, Michael, you want your God to be warm and fuzzy, and maybe that's true. But I know if a human being did that, that's called a war crime. But then again, we don't prosecute those nowadays. But my point being is just that any God that I can name, that's not God, because God is infinite, if you want to use that word. So you can define, I can never comprehend the infinite. But I don't think it's a man or a woman. There may be female and male qualities or characteristics or energy. But the Palladians talk about, and with Billy Meyer, they talk about that there is a humanoid figure called God with a small g. But above this person is something that they call creation. Well, a lot of Native Americans call the creator. But creation is an energy. Creation is an intelligence. It has no form. It is all around us. We're already swimming in it. And there are ways you can use this energy by your thoughts. It is done unto you as you believe. What you reap, what you sow. These are universal laws. This is not personal. So there are laws in the universe. Well, we could call that God. God has a lot of baggage with it, but it's an energy. And so we've been worshiping a God that we've created in the sense of it's a humanoid or extraterrestrial, and people bow down and pray to this Yahweh. People will kill you if you don't believe in Yahweh. People will kill you if you don't believe in Allah. People will kill you over this stuff. Meanwhile, what is the Creator doing up there? It's not taking sides. People score touchdowns at a football game, and they do the sign of the cross and they point up, as if God cares about whether they scored a touchdown. We'll see a lot of that this Sunday.
Yeah.
Our concept of God is primitive because we use it to separate. Universal energy, creation is about unity. It doesn't mean you give up your individuality, but it's about unity. Love brings people together. That's what love does. It does not separate. So if it's not bringing folk together, then you got to say maybe this is not love. And so what I try to do in the book is I give the Palladian spiel on it as much as I could from my research, and then you can make your own choice. We don't have to live alike. We don't have to think alike to love alike. But if you still think God is a Santa Claus, it's hard to live the fullness of life. It's hard to appreciate life when you're worried about whether you're going to burn in hell if you don't get it right. Or someone else is going to burn in hell because they don't do it the way you do it. That's not the spirituality and the splendor of the human being that our ET friends are trying to show us.
Yeah, I hope that's true. I hope you're right about that, because that's not a very positive.
Don't take my word for it. Just live it. What is your perspective on religion? This is rhetorical. You don't have to answer it. Yep. Is it making you a more holistic, integrative, happy individual? If it's not, then maybe a new perspective is in order. If you want to keep on getting what you're getting, I live in the same world you do. I don't have all the fear. And I'm not saying you do, but if you do, what is this person doing? And I'm not a dumb man. I'm not an ostrich mentality. But every day we get to choose love or fear. Every day we have a choice. Am I going to choose love in this situation, or am I going to choose fear? Jesus of Nazareth lived in a time of empire like we do. We live in an empire. And he knew that he wasn't going to stop Caesar and Rome from doing the same thing our legions do today. But he knew that the kingdom of heaven was within. And so the world could go to hell in a handbasket, but you just remember, you are children of God, or call it what you will, and that you matter, that you have significance, and you can have the peace that passes all understanding. But don't take my word for it. See what it does for you.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great note to end tonight's show on, Michael. I want to thank you for being our guest tonight. It flew by, and you're such an interesting guest. I hope you'll come back again. And also, I know that you speak and lecture at conferences and things like that, so please do let us know the next time you're scheduled for a conference. And also, any of you conference promoters out there, he's a wonderful speaker. I'm sure you can find him online. If you can't, contact me, and I'll be glad to put you in touch with Michael. And also let us know if you have any TV appearances coming up, and we'll keep our listeners posted.
Yeah, just one last thing. I want to just say, listen, gang, I'm just talking. I'm not pushing Christianity down your throat, please, because there are many ways. I'm just sharing that. I'm using Jesus as the example because that's what my books are about, and that's my own personal theology. But it could be atheism, it could be Buddha, it could be whatever. But, you know, it's about the inner journey. And I just wanted to make sure people heard that. And I wish everybody many, many blessings.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Yes, one door is all it takes, right?
Yes, that's it.
All right, thanks so much. Get Michael's new book, A New World.